Hello, I'm Super Orange Cat. Here I am with Toonami's ratings from July 3rd, 2021. Without further ado, let's start at the top of the block. At the top of the block, we have My Hero Academia at a 0.19, Dr. Stone at a 0.13, Yashahime, Princess Half Demon at a 0.11, The Food Wars at a 0.11, Black Clover at a 0.10, Naruto Shippuden at a 0.08, and the ratings for the reruns of Attack on Titan and Dragon Ball Super have yet to be announced. Overall, this was a kind of an interesting week to analyze because if you just look at the start of the block, the very first rating, My Hero Academia, it goes up 500 to 0.19 and it looks great. Like, you're like, okay, great night. My Hero Academia finally kind of acting like the show we thought it would be. And I'm not following My Hero Academia. I'm presuming it's because we're starting to actually get into action. My Hero Academia kind of has this tendency to start seasons really slow and then pick up over time. And the ratings have done that too in the past, where I remember in past seasons, like when it was first put on Toonami, the first few episodes really didn't do too well. People were like, oh, it's a bust. And then over time, the ratings started picking up. And I think it's just kind of like that again. So that just looks good because, if you're looking at that, you're like, well, 0.19, that must mean the block had a great night. Well, about that. Dr. Stone is 600s below that at a 0.13. They lost about a third of the audience from show to show. And actually, if you do it by total viewers, it lost more than a third of the audience. It's just and that's the thing, we might be kind of back to square one, like how we were with Dragon Ball Super a couple years back, where Dragon Ball Super would have these high ratings, and then the rest of the block just simply cannot keep up with that, cannot retain those ratings. It was a Titanic drop, from uh, show to show, and it dropped harder than my crypto portfolio here, and the rank here, like later, I'm gonna show you like the actual Excel sheet I put these down in, and I'm gonna put down rank, and that's the rating. That's the rank of the show on Saturday on cable. So, for example, My Hero Academia was ninth. It was the ninth highest rated cable premiere on Saturday. You know, and I like to point that out because again, what Toonami usually does is that they usually have like one show in the top 10 and then the rest of the block are in like the top 25. That's not the case here. You have My Hero Academia at 9, then you have Dr. Stone at 18, Yashahime at 30, Food Wars 31, Black Clover 37, and Shippuden at 54. The other two shows, since they're reruns, are not given a rank. And that's just a letdown. It's like to have one show. Like we've gone to now having one show that does really well and the rest of the block does really poorly. And again, it's the same as what it used to be with Dragon Ball Super. And back then it was My Hero Academia that couldn't retain Dragon Ball Super. We're talking about like, oh, losing a point 0.3 something to like a point 0.2. Now we're talking about 0.2 to barely hitting 0.1, how things change over time. And again, Dr. Stone by a good margin because of this is the loser of the night, in my opinion. And that's why I have that marked in red. And you have Yashahime 0.11. Pretty one hell of a letdown, right? Last week, Yashahime, the highest rated show in the block, beating My Hero Academia, beating Dr. Stone. This week, not so much. And the only explanation for this is a number of people, myself included, saw the first episode and were just not interested in watching more. And that's something part of me wanted to do kind of a quick review of the first episode, but I didn't get around to it. So basically, I really would have given this a really negative rating. I probably would have given it like a 3 or 4 out of 10, something really ugly. Basically, if you weren't a fan of the initial Inuyasha, you're going to be confused two-thirds of this episode because so much of it was like well, what happened to Inuyasha after the end of Inuyasha to kind of, I guess, set up the plot for this season of Yashahime. And at the very end, you see two of the girls. You had Toa from the very beginning, you see. And you had the other two. I already forgot. I think the red one is like Moroha or something. I forgot what the blue one's name is. And what I thought of, and I'm gonna get some flack for this. This reminded me a lot of The Legend of Korra, where first off, it's a sequel to an extremely popular show where, of course, Yashahime was the sequel to Inuyasha, and Legend of Korra was the sequel to Avatar: The Last Airbender. And what reminded me of it was when the other two girls showed up and fucked up the regional boss's headquarters, was the red one specifically her behavior, her pattern, reminded me so much of when we first get introduced to Korra in Legend of Korra. And if you remember Legend of Korra, this is probably the second most famous thing about Legend of Korra after the ending. How literally we get introduced to Korra is we get to see her in like her hut, I think break into a hut, and she's like starts fire, water, and air bending at the same time. And she's like, I'm the air, I'm the avatar. You better deal with it. And a lot of people just got turned off right there. It's like, holy crap. It's like the type of character, it's just gonna be a handful to try to like this is the character you're supposed to root for, and it's like, I'm gonna have to root for this character for how many episodes? And it's just it just becomes a hassle, and especially when Maroha comes in, like that standard anime protagonist, hands behind the head, walk in, complete dumbass, but like they're trying to make her like this stereotypical shonen protagonist too, of like complete dumbass who's like OP, but at the beginning of the show is too stupid to know that they're OP. You know, it's like, and it's just frustrating watching. I can understand why myself and a lot of people tuned out. Clearly, it lost a third of its audience from last week. It doesn't Shows don't normally do that. And again, that might be a sign that Toonami might have a dud right towards the start of the block. Like you could argue Dr. Stone's a dud, but Dr. Stone has had a week or two where it has had good retention. Yashahime just fell off the face of the earth in the course of 1 week. And of course, you can't say anything bad about Food Wars or Black Clover afterwards because they're really just kind of doing good retention off of those bad numbers. And then Naruto, you can't really say anything about Naruto you hadn't said in the past. It's gonna be there forever, man. And yeah, those were Tanami's ratings for this past week. And I'm gonna try to get my first waifu video out tomorrow. I finished up the research for that, and I'm probably gonna I probably already mentioned this. I'm gonna break it up into approximately 6 different videos. Try to do around 10 waifus per video. Interest the as a bit of an appetizer for the first episode. Well, the research was fun, especially for one pair of characters I'm gonna mention in tomorrow's video. You'll know who they are when you see them. Let's just say the best way to describe those characters are hyper-violent onaholes. So let that stew in you for a minute while I say farewell for now. If you like this video, if you want other videos like it, please like, comment, subscribe. I'm Super Orange Cat, and that is all.